What is autism? Hi, my name is Elaine and I am an autism mom, a teacher, and an advocate for the support and rights of people with autism. I aim to do a series of posts that will help parents to unravel autism and find ways to help children with autism to learn, develop, make progress, and live happy and fulfilled lives. In this post, I will briefly discuss what autism is and the importance of being diagnosed. Professionals diagnose autism spectrum disorder on the basis of difficulties in two areas. One, social communication difficulties, and two, restricted and repetitive interests. You may ask, why is this area referred to as social communication? Why is it not simply called a difficulty in communication? I think it's because some kids with autism may know a lot of words but may not be using them to communicate with another person socially. They may repeat words, sing words, talk to themselves, but are not communicating purposefully with another person. To be diagnosed with ASD, children must have difficulties in both these areas, that is, social communication and restricted and repetitive interests, and they must have had these characteristics from early childhood. Let's look at some of the signs of difficulties in social communication. Not speaking at all, speaking but rarely, mostly failing to respond when spoken to. The child does not share his interests with his parents. For example, he will not say, "Look, mommy, my aeroplane," or "See that car." The child will not use or hardly ever uses gestures like pointing or waving, not showing an interest in friends or having difficulty in making friends, rarely engaging in imaginative play. There are some children with autism who do communicate well, and they even have impressive vocabularies, but they have difficulty interacting socially. These children were previously diagnosed as having Asperger's, a type of autism, but this categorization no longer exists. Children previously diagnosed with Asperger's now fall under the general umbrella of autism. Signs of difficulty in this area include lining up, repeatedly stacking or arranging toys or other objects in the same way over and over again, frequently flicking switches or spinning objects or using them in the same way with no or very little variation, speaking in a repetitive way, having very narrow or limited interests and spending lots of time on that interest, needing things to always happen in the same way, having trouble with changes to their schedule or changing from one activity to another, showing signs of sensory sensitivities like becoming distressed by everyday sounds like hand dryers, not liking the feel of clothes labels, or licking or sniffing objects. It is important to remember that one or two of these signs does not by itself make for a diagnosis. A professional will conduct a formal assessment and observe the child in order to make a diagnosis. Who diagnoses? The following professionals can diagnose a person: pediatrician, neurologist, psychiatrist, psychologist. These professionals are available privately, but also they operate within the public healthcare system, where you will normally not need to pay for an assessment. Speech and occupational therapists also provide therapy and support to children with autism. As a parent, you should not seek to diagnose your own child. Don't go looking for autism checklists on the internet or videos claiming to record or show symptoms of autism. And don't try to use or apply them to your child. Assessment, observation, and diagnosis must be done by a trained professional. So, when should you approach a professional? You may suspect that something is wrong and be worried about it. Your child is not communicating at all, or she is not communicating in the ways that other 2 or 3-year-olds do. Your child does not make eye contact or point or draw your attention to something that interests him. Your child plays differently to other children. For instance, instead of feeding or rocking the baby doll, it is taken everywhere but is never played with. There are differences in the way your child speaks or behaves compared to other children that you cannot explain or understand. These are only examples of what you might find. They are not criteria for a diagnosis, but if you are worried and have concerns about your child's development, it is best to consult a professional. Why is it important to have your child assessed and diagnosed? So let's first consider why some parents would not want their child to be diagnosed. Some people prefer not knowing and they will avoid taking their child for an assessment. They are afraid that once they receive a diagnosis, their lives will change forever. And indeed, this is true. Diagnosis will change the existence of the family involved, and they will never be able to go back to a time before diagnosis. Some parents may wish to stumble along in ignorance and also do not want to label or stigmatize their child. The fear of becoming an outsider socially due to disability is very real and reasonable. The world has a long way to go when it comes to the acceptance of disability and the inclusion of the disabled person and his family. But much as I understand and sympathize with these concerns, I believe that the earlier you obtain a diagnosis, the better it will be for both your child and your family. A delay in assessment and diagnosis is likely to be detrimental to your child's welfare. A child with autism will be different in many ways, and those differences will be visible to family, friends, and outsiders. So autism cannot be avoided, nor can it be hidden. Early diagnosis and therapy can greatly help a child with autism to make progress in social interaction, communication, learning, and thinking. To avoid or delay diagnosis is to miss important opportunities to help your child in the ways that he or she needs to be helped. Good luck on your journey, and I wish you everything of the best. My next video will be about how to deal with your child's diagnosis and what steps you might take in order to help your child.